as we've been sadly witnessing police violence against Floyd George and the tragedy of his death. I remember pictures from the 60s, and I must think about the fact that the violence simply does not stop. This is a poem that Gwendolyn Brooks wrote after the Birmingham bombings. And it gives us still the sound and the tone and the atmosphere that somehow in some parts of the US have not stopped and have not vanished. So this poem is called The Ballad of Rudolph Reed, and remembers us what discrimination is all about. Telling the story of Rudolph Reed and his family, who lived tragedy because they were black and because they dared to move into white territory. The Ballad of Rudolph Reed. Rudolph Reed was Oaken. His wife was Oaken too. And Oaken were his two good girls and his good little man as they grew. I am not hungry for berries. I am not hungry for bread, but hungry, hungry for a house where at night a man's in bed, where never a wife and children need go blinking through the gloom, where every room of many rooms is always full of room. My house may have its east or west or north and south behind it. All I know is I shall know it and fight for it when I find it. It was in a street of bitter white where he made his application, 'cause Rudolph Reed was Oakener than others in the nation. The real estate agent's steep and steady stare corroded to a grin. Why, you black old, tough old hell of a man, move your family in. Nary a grin, grinned Rudolph Reed. Nary a curse, cursed he. But he moved in his home with his dark little wife and his dark little children, 3. A white neighbor watched with a yawning eye that squeezed into his slit. But the Rudolph Reeds and their children, 3, were too joyous to even notice it. For were they not firm in a home of their own, with windows everywhere and a beautiful banistered stair and a front yard for flowers and a backyard for grass? The first night, a rock big as 2 fists. The second night, a rock big as 3. But nary a curse, cursed Rudolph Reed, though Oaken as a man could be. The third night, the silvery ring of glass, and patience ached to endure. And he looked, and lo, sweet Mabel's face was stained by blood so pure. Then up did rise our Rudolph Reed, and he pressed the hand of his wife, and he went through the door with a 34 and a beastly butcher knife. And he ran into the night like an animal, and the words in his mouth were stinking, and by the time he had killed his first white man, he was no longer thinking. By the time he had hurt his 4th white man, Rudolph Reed was dead. His neighbors gathered and kicked his corpse. "Hey, nigger!" The neighbors said. Little Mabel whimpered all night long, thinking herself the cause. Her oak-eyed mother did no thing, but changed her bloody gauze.